Bruh, I can't draw circles. Alright, so out of like the 5 circles that I need, I have 60. So I'm just gonna pick one of the lines to work with. Trust the process, please. Ooh, you know what? Because there's quite a lot of paint on the canvas and it's quite thick, I can do little like patterns with the brush strokes. Ow! And that gives it more texture. I like that. My initial idea for this painting wasn't as organic as it came out to be. I wanted to go for a very smooth and sharp look, which is ironic because I used oil paints, which are known to create texture, but I'm glad that it ended up being this way because the painting's a lot more interesting. But this got me thinking, what's so interesting about texture? I mean, other than the fact that it adds dimension to a piece, for some reason texture's looked at very highly in the visual arts world. Like, yes, texture does a lot visually, but thinking about it in a deeper sense, it's a very human component, especially in drawing and painting. Like, that texture just can't be recreated digitally. If it's a physical work with texture done by hand, then that work becomes unique because it required an action from our physical, from the 3D. Like, obviously you can make a similar looking texture on a digital image, but it's still a digital image. You can't interact with it in the 3D. So things like AI physically can't create texture. But that's the first thing though. The second thing here, the act of applying texture to an artwork requires human creativity, human processing. Like, whether you have thick brushstrokes all over the image or carefully modeled out sections, it's up to the artist to decide what elements of the work they want highlighted and the symbolism behind that. Like, creatively, it's a very physical part of the process, but because it's done by hand, that means each stroke is organic. It could be subtle, but the key thing here is that it's incalculable. Like the movement of their hand and how thick or thin the texture turns out to be, it's directly related to creativity, to a consciousness. So I highly doubt an AI or a computer would be able to make texture in the same way, because it's way too calculated. Like, there's something so beautiful about human imperfection and just the unpredictable nature of our actions. In art, I really like to call it the human effect, and it's that organic mark making, the uneven lines, and all those imperfections that we can directly relate to human work. That would also include stuff like handprints, fingerprints, bristles, and brushstrokes. I'm also thinking of like outside of art, like bricklaying, cement that goes in between, you can almost always see all the human imperfections. And I find that so beautiful because it becomes proof of a man-made creation. So in art, it's like, if while looking at the work you can tell how that line was made, or if you follow the stroke, then you can imagine how the artist was responsible for it. That's what creates the human effect in my eyes, because it's like, it's proof of a man-made creation. You can tell it's human work. I used to really beat myself up over like the smallest imperfections in my work, but now, especially with AI existing, I see this human imperfection in a different light, where I truly believe real, authentic human work is best. And that authenticity is really captured in those imperfections. Like, although this painting right here is very geometric, I literally only used a ruler for these cubes. They're not necessarily mistakes, but you can see how each square is basically uneven. And so I feel like it's very telling that this was painted by a human. Like, at some point I was thinking of like, maybe I should just go over every line like a million times until everything's like perfectly even. But see, even like this thin line right here, it's like, and at first I was like, oh god, those are terrible, I gotta fix these. But it's like I mentioned, this is telling of human work. I feel like as a way of fighting against AI, it's best to show the human parts of work, to celebrate those. This is once again playing into like that sharp, geometric, kind of solid look, but there's a lot of texture and a lot of, I guess you can say there's a lot of mistakes here. The way how the paint's uneven there, it's thinned out a bit. It's like, you can tell that it's not necessarily perfect, but I feel like that's all done by a human. You can even see paint splotches where I've like messed up. Here's a big brush stroke of whatever, I don't even know what that is. When I first completed this painting, I was like, oh, I'm gonna have to repaint everything to make it look perfect. But then I'm like, why aim for perfection? I'm gonna try to scribble and then give myself 15 minutes and then see what I can create with that. I want to try this organic line situation a little bit more. Oh, that's so ugly. show you how these sketches came out? Because I'm really, really happy with them. This is the first one. Then I got this one, this little pink one, and then a blue one. When I drew like the first initial scribbles on these papers, I started overthinking it. I'm like, what am I supposed to make out of this? But then I'm like, why think that much? So I just started like coloring it in, doing different things, and it ended up becoming like a very interesting graphic piece. It's like there's no meaning behind it, nothing like, you know, symbolic necessarily. This one I got scared with this one. I started thinking that I should probably do something more visually interesting, but this one actually turned out to be the worst one in my opinion from all these, which is funny because it's the one that I put most thought into. And the best one that I like most is honestly this green one. I put the least thought into it. I just started drawing shit. And because I was really able to like ground myself and be present and not like think about what I'm doing or why I'm doing it, I set the intention to just draw. Like I really let my authentic creativity just do its thing. So not only are these images like proof of my existence, I guess, or rather holds record of my existence. Other than that, these kind of like in a way capture my mind, like my creative process. But I find it funny how this one, the one got the most thought into, ended up being like the worst looking one, which just kind of proves my point that art, when it's like when people are stressing about it or thinking about it, it just doesn't end up being good. But if art's authentic and comes from an authentic place, it's fun to explore this way. I'm definitely gonna be doing a lot more drawings like this. Brush strokes and what's already on the canvas, and I'm just kind of accentuating certain bits. Okay, no, I'm getting it. Okay, we got an idea. Okay, I'm hungry. I'm gonna take a lunch break. Got food. Geometric abstract art looks really nice, but like, for me at least, it's so unnatural. Like I have to go over the lines a million times, and I don't want to like do painter's tape. I don't want to get all these airbrushes and like fancy tools. I love doing everything by hand with like a paintbrush. Like a nice smooth airbrush looks so nice. It's so aesthetically pleasing. How do you paint like that? Like naturally, organically, it just doesn't work that way. It's very much in human nature to have like a flow. If I'm overthinking everything and not letting my hand or my art flow much, then isn't that also being inauthentic? Like I want to directly connect my mind, my thoughts to the canvas. So as I'm painting, like whatever's in my head kind of just ends up coming out naturally. Because that's how life works if you really think about it. Like it's all in human nature to kind of be very organic, let things flow. Like we're not supposed to be in like really strict robotic systems. Our movement's never two-dimensional. There's always like a flow. There's always some kind of movement. If you believe in like energies, then energies are always flowing, they're always changing. Even time is always moving. Everything is always in a state of constant flow. Then why not paint in that same way and kind of like meditate with it and let your mind just do whatever it wants? That's what I'm gonna do right now. Like water. Oh, damn, life is so interesting. Like what the fuck? What is everything? Like now I know why I've been struggling with geometric shapes and like actually painting straight, sharp lines, because it's just unnatural. Nothing within us is also completely identical. We're supposed to be in a state of flow. That means like routines and schedules are good to a certain extent, but like having a lot of hours, like a very strict 9 to 5, like that's very unnatural for us. Things that are very, very strict, very, very regulated, like that shouldn't work for life. We're the first species to live like this. We're the first species. What the fuck? Life is meant to be in an organic flow state. And life isn't like that for us at all. I haven't seen a single bear, a single squirrel pay taxes for being born. Yeah, I'm gonna just flow state, natural flow state with art. I'm gonna try to paint naturally. So here's how this final painting came out to be. I'm really happy with the final product. It's really pretty, but also I had so much fun in the process. The fact that I literally had no plan for the painting was just a very nice and relaxing creative process. It made me realize that I gotta paint more like this. Like, I really liked this flow, all these like organic shapes and how they connect with each other and the colors. I had a lot of fun. I saw a little butterfly in the underpainting, and then I went ahead and exaggerated all those lines, and I they're just like flowy, you know, they kind of, there's like this idea that you can transmute energy, and energy is also in a constant state of flow. If you believe in energies, then can't energies also be physically transmuted into objects? Doesn't it make sense that you can infuse your art with energy? Art is very subjective, but I know that a lot of people like going to visual arts museums because seeing the physical painting is just better than seeing a picture of the painting, which I agree with. I myself believe that art holds like an energy, but like it could be placebo or it could just be like made up. But on an objective level, like when you look at a historic object, and whether you know the history or not, you can still tell that it's been through something, and there's usually not like an energy. You can tell that it's been used. You can tell that it's gone through something, you know? I mean, it depends on like how old of a thing you're looking at, but everything has a story if you look into it. But that's why most things get overlooked in the present moment, because we're like always surrounded by it. Give it a few thousand years and then historians are going to be digging into objects and shenanigans of our lifetime right now and being like, whoa, this was like that, look at the history behind this. And you're looking at like caveman art, people usually find it beautiful because it's like a historic painting. You can't see that with the current art yet, but in a few thousand years it's just going to be the same. So why not look at art in the same way, that it's just like a silly little thing that humans do on Earth? A lot of artists sometimes they don't plan for certain little things to be added to their painting, but then all of a sudden they have that one brush stroke or they have that one shape that they did and they're like, this is complete, or like, I really like this, I'm keeping it in. But like, it's those little unplanned things that end up being the most beautiful. Even if visually it's like not aesthetically pleasing, there's a story behind the unplanned aspect. So I'm all for embracing authenticity in art rather than, you know, just trying to come up with like the coolest looking thing. Add your own stories into it. It's fun to explore this way. I'm definitely gonna be doing a lot more drawings like this. I'm glad that I can create out of literal scribbles. That's good to know. So I think that goes to show that it's possible to create anything out of everything. So why be lazy and do things through AI when you have the whole world to play with? Heck, you can literally stack a few rocks on each other and that's it. Like, in my opinion, that's still better than spending hours on a painting in AI. Even if you're not spending hours, I don't care how long you're spending on that shit. Like, go touch grass. Serious. I mean, it's all subjective. It really depends on like what you're trying to go for, what matters to you most in life. But like, why not be a human? Why not do something fun for yourself? When people talk about AI taking over arts, I feel like we're forgetting the beauty of humanity and life itself. Other than the fact that AI art is literally plagiarism, and we need some restrictions and laws in place on AI in general because it's just such a dangerous tool. But other than that, people say that AI is a shortcut for those who don't actually know how to do art. But that entirely defeats the purpose of what it means to create, to you yourself be responsible for realizing your vision, because then the creation's truly yours. Like, I know it may be easier to like AI generate a landscape than to actually go out and take a picture of a landscape, but most people still prefer to go and take their own photo, and most people would prefer the real photo over the AI one in general. I mean, to each our own opinion, but the real image captures meaning. There's history behind it. If it's a photograph or video, it captures structures, landscapes, people, life on this earth. If it's a visual piece, then it captures the creativity and mind of a human existence. I can see how AI is used to like brainstorm ideas, but if you're seriously for AI, give me one good reason other than the fact that it's easier than actually doing the work. And like, art doesn't have to be like a complicated, skillful thing. It's supposed to be for expressing yourself, to have fun. Like, I can only see AI being fun for lazy people because every artist that I know loves being hands-on. It's unfortunate that we live in a society where people choose efficiency and convenience over quality of life. Like, we're not supposed to live with fastly accessible everything, you know? Life is objectively hard. Even if we got to that point, that wouldn't solve hardship. Like, we just have hardship on a psychological level. You can even take the internet and social media as an example. Like, yes, it's made our lives so much easier and more fun, but now we have to deal with the new age psychological repercussions of that. Like, it has been changing our evolution. It's not just getting rid of the hardship, although it may seem like it. There's an entire flip side to it. No matter how much you try to avoid challenge, you're gonna have to face it at some point in your life. Looking for an easy way out is one thing, but I gotta remind myself that there are genuinely people who want to live like this, and people with bad intentions too. Let me go on a side rant here. As a society, we're being controlled and lied to, you know? It's always something that I've been aware of. But especially recently, with so many people suffering, all these public outcries of people begging for help, begging for change, begging for the wars to stop, and our political leaders aren't responding, I feel like that just goes to show how much they don't care. Furthermore, I see this as proof that they are purposely harming us for their personal gain. Like, ignoring public outcries for ceasefires while sending millions of our tax money to wars that literally no one wants, while trying to convince us that this is somehow unavoidable and a natural part of life. Like, no, it isn't. No one deserves this, and I feel like any normal human being can agree on that. Every promise they make for bettering our lives and for caring about us is fake. It's progress for the people in power because they're manipulating us with the system that they have in place, which makes us ill, numb, and unable to think for ourselves while they capitalize off of that. They want us to be stupid, overwhelmed, and depressed because that's the only way the system works for them. And as long as they make us believe that they care about us, they can keep lying, gaslighting, and manipulating us until we completely destroy our evolution. Because whatever they're doing now, people are really waking up to the horrors of the injustice that we're facing. And instead of listening and addressing these issues, they're just trying to fry and overwhelm our brains thanks to social media. Because if we're too focused on our own pain, our own insecurities, and we feel alone in our thinking, then we won't do anything. And that's insane to me because that's something only narcissists, manipulators, and like gaslighters do in order to get the other person to submit. So why would the government want all of us to submit so badly? Because they're probably aware that they're doing something wrong and heavily rely on these systems. Psychopaths in positions of power should really be looked at more seriously because they lack fundamental human empathy, which is so important in a position where you're literally tasked with taking care of a population. This lack of empathy becomes a tool to commit acts of violence, to instill this power. Not a single normal human being would ever willingly cause so much harm. I don't care if they're fucking aliens or lizards. No one should have this much power and be let off on war crimes and for purposely altering our education, healthcare, evolution for capitalism. We're all seeing how kids are getting dumber. We can all see how apps are selling our information and how our AIs and devices are listening into our lives. Have you also noticed how easy it is to get trapped doom scrolling on every app nowadays? The people who want to cause this harm want us to believe that it's unintentional, but they know exactly what they're doing. This has been going on for years, and they're gonna keep silencing us, ignoring us, and denying us because that's the only thing a narcissist can do when they've been caught in the wrong, right? The solution is never rational. It's always to change the circumstances outside of yourself, to make everyone around them conform rather than the other way around, even if violence and extreme measures are necessary to do so. If anyone's still watching this, if there's anything to take away from this video, please let it be this. I don't know what you're going through, but please don't let this darkness flood your mind. I know it's difficult when you constantly hear, see, and experience so much pain and injustice in your regular life, but whatever you do, don't ignore yourself and your needs. Like, if there's anything you can do, just be there for yourself and the people around you. Your goals, your dreams, your life in general is so important, and you living in your happiest and truest self is honestly the best thing you can do for yourself, in my opinion. Our society and whoever's in power right now wants you to feel overwhelmed and hopeless. You being happy is seriously the best thing you can do for yourself. And I'm not saying this in like a be ignorant way. Like, it's very important to still keep yourself grounded and to keep yourself educated on what's going on in the world. But just remind yourself of how special your life is. Your existence, your human experience, your human life, that is art. You are art. In my opinion. Coexist with this pain, coexist with the darkness, because what would the other option be? To give up? To die? If you're the type of person who's really overwhelmed by the world or who just doesn't care because we're all gonna die anyways, like that existentialist idea that objectively nothing matters, why not look at it like this? If nothing matters, we're all gonna die anyways, so I'm gonna try to make the best situation out of this. Because if you truly don't care, then why are you still here? You could have been dead by now. But there's something in you, the human part of yourself that craves for things to get better. You want to be happy. The human in you just wants to live. So in a world where nothing matters, why not celebrate how special that is? It's so easy to feel unloved and overlooked in this world, and as long as you keep ignoring yourself and your needs, life is just gonna keep feeling like that. Like, you're so special, I seriously can't stress that enough. Even if as people we were all exactly the same, which to some extent we are, isn't that all the more reason to just be you? But yeah, those are some thoughts that I had on my mind, just wanted to share. But to wrap this up, in a world where nothing matters, try to make this life work for you. That's the mentality that I've been holding up, and life's been pretty good. I obviously still get overwhelmed by all the suffering that's going on in the world, but the most I can do right now is just provide just a little bit of softness and lighthearted energy into a world that feels like it's anything but. So just stay strong for yourself, and if anything, I love you. So remember that. Thank you for tuning in. Yeah, that's all I have.